UFC 315 is a perfect example of a mediocre fight card that ends up being spectacular because of a main event. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to recap and react to every single fight at UFC 315. But before we talk about the fights, let's talk about the bets. And your boys had a great night. Jacob specifically had an unbelievable night because of all the money that he put on the co-main and the main. He was all over Valentina Shevchenko. He was all over Della Maddalena. So he absolutely cleaned up. I hit my safety parlay. We had a couple of other really nice parlays on my side. And Bet Sam does what Bet Sam does. He hit his slam of the week, and he had a couple of really cool prop bets like the plus 400 for Bekzat Almakhan to win by KO. So that means a giant underdog lock of the week win, another safety parlay win, another slam of the week win, and overall up money. Great night for the boys. Here's a closer look at that safety parlay. That is 5 of the last 6. 5 of the last 6, 3.3 units specifically, only from this one single bet and a 55% ROI. If we go back to tonight, UFC 315, 6.77 units of net profit. Overall, things are going well for the boys and for the premium members. If you want to unlock every single pick, bet, and tool right now for an entire month, it is only $10. It is only $10 for every single pick, bet, and tool that we offer. This coming week, we have a pretty solid fight night. We have Gilbert Burns taking on Michael Morales at UFC Vegas 106. I already have the safety parlay up for that card. After that's UFC Vegas 107. Then we have UFC 316 and then UFC Atlanta. All of those cards are week after week after week. And for $10, you'll get every pick, every bet, every tool for those fight cards. Just go to WeWantPicks.com and click Become a Member. The $10 price point is insane. If you signed up today, if you signed up yesterday for UFC 315, it more than paid for itself, and depending on your unit size, you could have bought an entire year's worth. WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top. Let's go ahead and talk about these fights. I did open up being dead wrong. My first pick on the night was wrong. Straight up wrong, right off the rip. No bet, thankfully, but the pick was wrong. Bekzat Almakhan absolutely smoked Brad Katona. Beautiful underhook, landed clean, got it done. My concern coming into this fight was we don't know what the deal is with Bekzat yet. He lost his UFC debut. He landed 4 total strikes in his UFC debut. We don't have enough to go off of. Now, we knew he rocked Umar Nurmagomedov and then got wrestled to death. So he came in here. I expected it to be a good back and forth. I assumed we would get to a decision here because Brad Katona is a guy that has established that he's pretty tough. He's gotten some wins at this level. He's the only person ever to win the Ultimate Fighter twice, and none of it mattered because Bekzat absolutely blew through him. This wasn't a very long fight. I've spent more time talking about it than the fight actually lasted, so I am curious to see what the matchup will be next. Obviously, his hands are spectacular. He has 2 fights in the UFC, and he's got knockdowns in both of them. So curious to see what they do for him next. 135 pounds has no shortage of prospects, so let's keep seeing how they move him along, where they put him. Maybe they build back up to a Umar rematch if he continues to win. Then we had a short notice, don't care type situation with Daniel Santos and Jeong Lee. Daniel Santos came into this fight a little smaller, looked like he struggled on the scale a little bit, and he came out there like a typical shoot-a-box fighter. Wildly aggressive, was also getting hit a little bit, getting touched up a little bit. Jeong Lee had some success, but Daniel didn't care. He didn't stop. He just kept moving forward. He kept attacking. He would grapple, he would strike. He would grapple, he would strike, and he did not stop. The cardio for Daniel Santos on short notice looked better than his cardio does with a full fight camp. And Daniel Santos was one of the public reverse Uno cards. And I should back up and redo this sentence and say, Jeong Lee was the public's favorite dog. That's how I should have worded that. Because Daniel Santos opened up as a pretty big favorite. A good-sized favorite, a legitimate, across-the-board favorite. And then all the money came in on Lee. And it flipped. And Lee ended up the favorite come fight night. And it was competitive. It was back and forth. There were some moments on both sides. But it was literally Daniel Santos's forward pressure, his ability to mix wrestling and striking, and his unwillingness to settle. And that was the difference. Just 90% pressure, 90% pace. And the fact that he was in shape, didn't care, was making stuff happen. I mean, this was a great showing for Daniel Santos. Maybe the short notice somehow benefited him. But either way, great showing for Daniel Santos. Young Lee just got grinded out, essentially. Like I said, he had a couple of moments, a couple of shining moments that just were gone because Daniel Santos did not stop moving forward. Curious to see what happens next for Daniel, what his deal is, what weight class he's going to stick with, where he's going to go. He's a kid that can bounce up and down, and we just saw in this fight, short notice doesn't matter for him either. Then we watched Marc-Andre Barriault kill a man. Straight up. This was, Bruno Silva went down bad. And my whole narrative in this week, and I got greedy with Marc-Andre because I was very confident Marc-Andre, placed a bet with Marc-Andre. Problem is I turned it into a parlay. Instead of just taking a somewhat affordable guy at minus 140, whatever he was, and loading up on him with my confidence level, I decided to parlay it. But the reality is my narrative this entire week was sometimes it's not about the fighter, it's about their opponent. And that's what we had this week. Yes, Marc-Andre was on a 3-fight losing skid. And yes, 2 of those losses were pretty bad knockouts. But if you look on the other side, we have a Bruno Silva who's disinterested, a Bruno Silva whose body isn't what it used to be, meaning he literally is looking softer and softer every single fight. A Bruno Silva who's just kind of showing up, seems to have lost all care whatsoever for his record, for his career. So yes, Marc-Andre is a guy that was struggling to win. Marc-Andre is a guy that was getting finished, and Bruno Silva hits hard. But if you zoom out and you look at where they are in their careers and who's continuing to try to win, Marc-Andre is losing to people that were just better than him. Not everybody's going to be an undefeated world champ. You are going to lose. But Bruno Silva was losing to people who weren't necessarily better than him. Bruno Silva just didn't seem to care enough to win. So Marc-Andre came forward, got in his face, landed a couple clean shots, landed 2 elbows, and finished Bruno Silva. Couple of wild takeaways. One, the second elbow Marc-Andre lands literally caves Bruno's skull in. You can see an indentation into his skull. Not quite as bad as MVP versus Cyborg in Bellator, but he caved a piece of his skull in. And 2, Bruno Silva laid in this position, in this picture, for a good 6-7 minutes, which is an insanely long time. It was an insanely long time. So much so, it was so concerning that the UFC felt it was necessary every 10 minutes to give us an update on Bruno Silva. They're literally like, I know you think he died. We swear we have no video or picture proof that he's alive, but just trust us. He's alive. He didn't die. Trust us. And they just literally kept giving us updates. Anytime there was downtime, like a quick update on Bruno Silva, he is moving all of his toes and fingers. Like these are the updates they were giving. Wild knockout. Congrats to Marc-Andre. Obviously, Bruno Silva at this point, you got to hang him up. Even if this was a loss after a 4-fight win streak and not a 4-fight lose streak, you got to hang him up. A knockout that bad will affect the rest of your life. Not just your fighting career, but the rest of your life. You got to hang it up. You got to be done. I imagine he is done. The UFC is certainly going to cut him after 5 losses in a row. Marc-Andre Barriault, great win. Another super short fight. This is a minute and a half. We don't quite know what this means for Marc-Andre other than he's continuing to work hard. He's continuing to move forward. He's continuing to try to build a career for himself. So good for Marc-Andre Barriault. Then we had Navajo Stirling. Listen, love-hate with Navajo Stirling. On one hand, this young gentleman was in the safety parlay and another parlay, both of which hit. On the other hand, he's not who people say he is. He's not who people say he is. He won this fight, but he is not who people say he is. Navajo Stirling should be running through people. This was a fight where he was supposed to be the better kickboxer in a mostly striking matchup. But instead, Navajo won this fight because of his grappling. He won this fight because of his grappling. Shot some takedowns, ended up on top. That ultimately wore down Aiemann. Took some of the energy away from him, took some of the wind out of his sails, slowed him down, took some power off his punches, and that was wildly important because early on, Aiemann was landing any right hand and left hook that he wanted to. He was landing with what looked like a 100% accuracy. Navajo Stirling is not soft. He is very tough. He didn't accept bottom when he ended up on bottom. His wrestling looked pretty good. The jiu-jitsu looked pretty good. He's obviously a well-trained guy. The problem is he's unbelievably hittable, and he's not fast. He is not fast. He has almost no speed. He was genuinely slow. Aiemann should not be the faster fighter in a matchup like this, but he was. So Navajo Stirling is a technical striker who is slow and gets hit. So yes, he's 7-0. And depending how long the break is between this fight and his next fight, people are going to forget. And they're going to see the undefeated record. And they're going to go all in on him. I'm telling you right now, if we get somebody that's a little cleaner than Ivan Erslan, Navajo Stirling might be a phenomenal future fate. Or the inverse of that, we saw how good his grappling, and his wrestling looked, right? Not amazing, but very good for a dude this young in his career that started as a kickboxer. So maybe he's going to continue evolving at an incredible pace. So maybe 6 months from now, all of a sudden, he is faster, he is cleaner, he's not as hittable. But this dude needs to work on his striking defense. These are not little guys. This isn't 155 pounds. This is 205. Let's put it this way. If he fought Zhang Mingyang, he's done. Done. He's too hittable. He's got to work on it. He is young in his career, but he's got to work on these things before the UFC invests a ton of money, hypes him up, and then he loses bad, and then they send him sailing. They hate his guts. And anytime I film one of these recap videos, there's always a decision. There's always one decision that you guys hate me for. You railroad me. 80% of the comments on the video are about my opinion of that one decision. That's how these recap videos go. The audience for the recap video, it's an interesting mix. It's people who love us, who made a bunch of money with us, the people who go to WeWantPicks.com, they're premium members. We did well, they want to show up and show the love. Love those people. There's brand new people who are just searching UFC 315 results. Welcome to the show. Okay? Like, subscribe, do all those things. There's people who hate us, genuinely hate us. No matter what we do, it'll never be, they just hate us. I'm too confident. Jacob's too full head of hair. I don't know. People just hate us. Those people only show up when we have a bad night. If you watch the views of this recap video after a good night and after a bad night, the bad night one has twice as many comments. Bet sucked, pick sucked. So there's that group of people. And then there's the people who are just genuinely somewhere in between. Not a premium member. They don't really care about the picks or bets. Just kind of watch for the entertainment, like to watch the fights, want to hear opinions. To that group, there's always a faction in that group that rips me for one decision. Doesn't matter. There's always one decision where I'm on the other side. This is going to be that fight. And I'll admit right now, I was half watching, maybe 3/4 watching this fight. Because when we watch the fights on a pay-per-view card, I have to film the vlog. I have to keep up. What you're looking at right now on the screen, I try to make these as the night goes on. So I don't sit here at 2 o'clock in the morning building an entire deck and coming up with everything. I like to do it as I go. So I was sitting at the kitchen table. Jacob was with me. Casey was on the couch. Kids were running around. And I'm building this, what you're looking at on the screen, while looking up at the TV. Can't really hear the TV. There's a lot going on. But every time I look up, it looked like Modestas was having the cleaner, better exchanges. It looked like Modestas was having more success. It looked like Modestas, to me, was winning this fight. And then when they announced the decision, like, okay, Modestas won. I thought he was going to win. It looked like when I was watching that he won the fight. And then to hear the commentating team talk about how it was a robbery and we missed a whole bunch. It was slop. It was a mess. This is what do you call it? The Edmonton robbery or some nonsense like that DC was going on about. Here's the reality. I thought this decision was fine. And again, I wasn't laser focused. But maybe the fact that I could not hear the commentary team is why I thought it was a pretty good decision, or at least one that I could agree with. So I am curious. You're going to railroad me, and you're stupid, and you whatever, fat, gay. There was not enough wrestling in here for you to call me biased towards wrestling. Just felt like Modestas had the better exchanges. So now let's talk about the next steps for them. Modestas is clearly a good striker. He's a good fighter. He's a good striker. Had a freak injury a few years ago, kind of affected his trajectory, but he seems to be here. Cutelaba is a guy that just 2 years ago was getting knocked out with a strong gust of wind, and now here he is. What does he have, 3 decisions in his last 4 or 5 fights? All of a sudden, Cutelaba's chin is back. And he is fun to watch. He'll move forward. He will bomb away. He'll swing his ass off. He'll try to make something happen. I think the easiest thing to do here is take Modestas and Navajo together and then put Aiemann and Ivan together. That's it. Take the 2 winners and the 2 losers. Let them fight each other. If Navajo is who he says he is, he beats Modestas. If he's not, he loses to Modestas. But at least he'll lose early in his career to a guy that now has some quality wins in the UFC. And it's okay, because then you can still build him up. So I think that's the easiest matchup to do next. Doesn't even need more of a discussion than that. Then we had Jazzy doing Jazzy things. I was very confident in Jasmine DeVicious. I placed that parlay of Jasmine and Mike Malott that we'll talk about in a second. I also felt like Jasmine was safety parlay material. But the only reason I didn't pull the trigger on her in the safety parlay is because I had her and Mike Malott in that other parlay. And anytime you get a Jessica Andrade, it's a little nerve-wracking, right? Look what Jessica Andrade did to Mackenzie Dern. And Mackenzie's takedowns blow. They suck. They're awful. They're miserable. But she landed clean. She had some power. Wasn't afraid to engage. This fight seems similar at first, right? Jasmine said, I'm going to stand with her. I'm going to strike with her. And there was a couple of strike exchanges. Then as soon as Jasmine got her hands on her, she didn't just shoot a regular takedown. She picked her ass up and dumped her to the ground before jumping on her back, choking her out. Jessica Andrade is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And whoever gave it to her is probably the same guy that gave Molly McCann a brown belt. It's a scam. It's a scam. There's a scam being run there. I don't know what the scam is, but there's a scam being run there. Because Jessica Andrade, as soon as she was taken down, looked clueless. Looked terrified, looked clueless, didn't look like oh my God, what do I do? Oh, a choke. Brutal on the ground. Jasmine got a black belt after this win. You've heard me sit here before and railroad when coaches give out black belts after wins. Because, I mean, what if Jasmine lost? She didn't earn that black belt? If Jasmine got knocked out, let's say Jasmine outgrappled the shit out of Jessica Andrade, but then got a bad decision. The decision didn't go her way. Or got knocked out, 1 second left. Her coach flew with a black belt in the duffel bag, knowing he was going to give it to her. And not going to give it to her based off what she did in the cage, right? You don't earn a black belt in the 5 minutes or the 15 minutes you spend in the cage. You earn a black belt in the thousands of hours you spend on a mat. So for him to fly there with a belt in the bag, he was ready to acknowledge her for the thousands of hours she spent on the mat. But if this fight didn't go her way, does she still get that black belt? Do they just give it to her quietly at home? How does that go? I hate that. At least this one was somewhat logical where she won by submission. So in theory, did earn it on the spot. Jasmine is now on a, 6-fight win streak? Doing real things. Beat a former world champion. Her only losses are very credible. One of them is to Natalia Silva. We're talking about her in a minute. Natalia Silva might end up being UFC champion. Jasmine, doing great things. Jessica will continue to be Jessica, right? She'll get weird matchups. They'll throw around, they'll use the name a little bit. She'll lose 2, win 1, lose 2, win 1, till eventually she loses 5, and then that's it. Curious to see what they do with Jasmine next. I don't see a reason to rush her to a belt. She is a little older. I think she's 36, 35. So there's not an enormous amount of time, but the reality is she's exciting. Canada loves her. Maybe invest some money in the marketing and see what we do next. Then we had Mike Malott and Charles Radke. This was a fight that I got correct, and I bet on it correctly. But I also made a little tiny slight betting mistake. I picked Mike Malott. I said Mike Malott would win. He's the better fighter. But my concern was we've seen Mike Malott quit, right? He quit when he fought Neil Magny. We saw it with our own eyes. He quit. It got tough, and he quit. So my concern was, listen, Charlie Radke's tough as shit. And if Charlie Radke comes forward, just makes this a dogfight, and puts Mike Malott in a situation where he could quit, he might. We've seen him do it. I'm not inventing it. We've seen him do it. So I said, let me do a small little puny bet on Charlie Radke to win inside the distance decision, no action. Meaning, I think Mike Malott wins. I threw Mike Malott in that parlay with Jasmine. But he probably wins a decision because of how tough Charlie Radke is. But just in case, the small chance that Charlie Radke gets Mike Malott in trouble and finishes him, I'll get paid on that side and basically cover the bet. But if he ends up losing a decision, which was what I thought was the most likely outcome, I'll get a full refund and I'm good to go. Well, Mike Malott finished Charlie Radke, and he looked great doing it. Mike Malott had clean striking, great exchanges. This was like a nice little left hook that dropped Charlie, and then on top, he just went Donkey Kong on him, slammed him, blasted the head, and got the finish. Mike Malott is very good. And more winning will get that bad taste of the quitting against Neil Magny sort of out of the mouth. Because we're only 2 fights removed from that. And his last fight wasn't great, right? The Trevin Giles fight was not very good, but this one was good. And he seemed to elevate himself. And I think he even said after the Trevin Giles fight, I just needed to get the win. I just needed to get, and he did. And now he came out here, he looked loose, he looked comfortable against a pretty dangerous guy, landed clean. We saw the power, we saw the technique. He's just a super athlete. His brother is an NHL player. That whole family is just tall, good-looking dudes that are professional athletes. Curious to see what they do with Mike Manott next, because he's another guy. He's a good-looking dude. There's a little bit of hype. They can continue to build him. I don't know what they're going to do. It's an interesting weight class, too. 170 is a tough weight class. There's a lot of talent sort of brewing around the top. That weight class just changed hands tonight. I don't know what they're going to do with Mike Manott, but I imagine he's going to get a big step up in competition next. Then we had Benoit Saint-Denis. Listen, Benoit Saint-Denis was a minus 1,500 favorite, okay? He was a minus 1,500 favorite. So, yes, he got a finish in the second round, which he was supposed to do. I just felt like, and maybe I was expecting too much, right? Maybe I was expecting if Benoit doesn't rip this dude's face off in the first 30 seconds, Benoit sucks. But while watching it, it genuinely felt like, dude, are you having a hard time getting this kid out of here? If you rewatch that fight, Kyle Prepelic landed some monster shots. He landed clean on Benoit. He had Benoit in a little bit of trouble. The first round, lots of grappling. Second round, Kyle was landing clean, good, clean exchanges, getting to Benoit. And I'll tell you right now, Kyle came into this fight knowing he was going to lose. You could see it on his face and you heard it in the corner. The corner was basically like, oh, you just got to start singing that sweet chin music. That's really our only chance. His corner was literally telling him his only chance to win this fight was to land a Hail Mary. That was what his corner was telling him. And that's the difference between UFC level coaching and a regional coach that has one guy that made it to the UFC. That is quite literally the difference. Doesn't truly believe in his fighter, just happy to be there. Just happy to be there. What a great moment for us. We made it. Instead of, I knew we would get here. Now let's continue to work. So instead of real advice like, hey, let's put together some combinations, keep your feet moving so he can't shoot those takedowns again, but you are landing clean, continue to throw and you will continue to land clean. I just need your feet moving. That's not what they said. They're like, all right, we're just going to have to, literally, I forget the exact words, but it was something like, you're going to have to swing that sweet chin music, some nonsense like that. Literally being like, Hail Mary's your best bet. So Prepelic, yeah, it is what it is. He was expected to lose. He was a plus 1,000 underdog. But Benoit, getting touched up bad, needing to rely on the wrestling, just seemed, you're a minus 1,500 favorite. You should have beat him as clean and as easy as Islam beat Money Moicano when he stepped up on short notice. That's what this should have looked like, but it didn't. So I think Benoit is overrated. And I'm curious to see what happens with him next because he's a guy the UFC immediately pushed, right? They immediately pushed him. And he was getting fame. He was getting notoriety. He was getting big. They give him a huge fight against Dustin Poirier. He actually has success early, then gets knocked out. Oh, staph infection, no big deal. Then Moicano rips him to pieces. But hey, Moicano's good now. No big deal. I don't know what they're going to do with the next, but I do have a feeling they're going to give him a really tough matchup, and he's not going to rise to that occasion. Natalia Silva did rise to the occasion. Yeah, was she on a bicycle? Sure. Sure she was. Sure. But that's the game, right? That's the game. She had great lateral movement, great side-to-side movement. She'd come in, land her shots, get out. You are not going to bait Natalia Silva into a dogfight. You're just not going to do it. You are not going to be in a situation where you will get Natalia Silva to exchange punch for punch in a full-blown slug fight where she will put herself at risk. She'll land a couple shots and get the hell out of there as quickly as possible. And that's clean, solid technique. And Alexa fought as best as she could. Alexa Grasso, former world champion, as we know. She's also a little small. You saw that size difference here. She got in on a few singles, a few takedown attempts, tried to control against the cage, and literally, Natalia Silva just muscled her way out of it. Underhook, bang, I'm out. I'm gone. You're not going to push me around. You're way too small, not strong enough. So Natalia Silva was bigger, faster, stronger, and just had the cleaner technique with the better footwork. But Alexa Grasso turned on Mexico mode. She just dug into that Mexican fighting spirit. Second round, third round, just moved forward, bombing away, trying to make something happen. And good for her. Good for her. Because that was going to be her path. You are not going to go technique for technique with Natalia Silva. Just not that style. Stylistically for you two, that wasn't going to work. And once she was getting dotted up and realized it wasn't going to work, I'm just going to get in her face. I'm just going to get in her face, and I'm going to try to make this ugly. So credit to her. She did try to make it ugly. It did not work. Now, Alexa Grasso's in a weird spot because, 2 years ago, she won the belt. In a fight that she was losing, she won it in what many call a fluke submission. Then she fights to a draw in what many call a bad decision. Then she flat out loses. Now she flat out lost again. Alexa Grasso has not had a clean win in years. I think the UFC needs to do what they don't normally do. What the UFC is going to do is they're going to give Alexa Grasso like the number 4 woman on the planet. And it's going to be a really tough matchup. And she might lose. What they should do, right? They might do Alexa Grasso and Jasmine Jasudavicius. And that might be a problem for Alexa Grasso. What they should do, though, is take Alexa Grasso, bump her down a bunch of pegs, and go from there. What they'll probably do is Manon Fiorot versus Alexa Grasso. Here you go. Here's a real tough fight. But again, what they should do, let her fight number 10 in the world. Build her back up. She's in the Mexican culture. She's got a huge Mexican fan base. She's built into that UFC Mexico relationship. Don't go ahead and destroy her career to try to build somebody else. That's what the UFC does, and I hate it. How many champions have we seen just fall from grace? Leon Edwards, that dude might never win again. And that's the problem. Hopefully, Alexa Grasso gets herself number 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in the world. In reality, they're going to give her Manon Fiorot. In reality, they're going to give her like a Jasmine Jasudavicius. Give her Jessica Andrade. That's what we should do. I solved the world's problems. Give Alexa Grasso Jessica Andrade. If she can't beat Jessica Andrade, she doesn't deserve to be in the top 10 rankings and needs to go down a weight class. If she can beat Jessica Andrade, then she gets another win under her belt. You can continue to market her. Do it on the Noche UFC card. What is that, September? Do Alexa Grasso for Jessica Andrade in September. Natalia Silva needs to fight Valentina Shevchenko for the belt. She earned it. It's her title shot. And before we saw the co-main event, I was going to say Natalia Silva beats Valentina. But I don't know. We'll talk about the Valentina fight. Then we had Jose Aldo give the fight away to Aiemann Zahabi. I did that whole rant earlier about there's always one decision people want to railroad me about. There might be 2 on this card. I agreed with this decision. And I had a bet on Jose Aldo. So I agreed with this decision. I'm totally fine with it. Because Jose Aldo gave this away. He gave it away at the end of the second. He gave it away the second half of the third. So if you don't know, Jose Aldo had the cleaner, better striking in the first round. Won that first round. It wasn't a blowout by any means, but he won that first round. It was clean. He was faster. He was landing more impactful shots, digging into the body. Aiemann has that weird, awkward striking style. Looks like he's never done it before. Literally a little soft with the love handles. Second round, though, Jose Aldo is winning most of that round. More of the same. Clean exchanges. Ripping to the body, coming to the head. Aiemann picked up the pressure a little bit. Aiemann was working Jose Aldo. Aiemann was making him do a little more. So towards the end of the round, Jose is getting a little tired, slowing down a little bit. And there was a couple moments towards the end there where Aiemann was coming forward and Jose would either let him hit him or just circle out all sloppy, like running away. And it was just a bad look optically. So because Jose was tired towards the end of the second, he just was leaning into it and running away, avoiding doing any actual work. And that's fine, right? Veteran move. But he gave that round away by doing that. And you got to remember, he's fighting a Canadian in Canada. I don't care who you are. If you are fighting a local guy in a foreign country, you know for a fact you need to put a full stamp on every round. You have to assume that a close round is going to go to the local guy. So instead of putting a stamp on round 2, he literally ran away. Instead of licking it and slapping it on the envelope, he dried it off. And the third round was unfortunate. The third round was a little different because Jose Aldo had Aiemann Zahabi 99% knocked out, and any other ref would have stopped it. Dan Miragliotta is just too old for the reffing game. Quite literally. If you watch the slow motion of Jose Aldo rocking Aiemann, dropping Aiemann, beating Aiemann up, and then Aimann's like stumbling and bumbling, and Jose Aldo kicks him clean in the face, and Aiemann falls all the way back to the other side of the cage, basically falls limp. At that point, any other referee would have been like, whoa, we're done. We are done. And maybe you could argue it was the right call to not call that fight because Aiemann continued to not only survive, but also win that round and ultimately win the fight. So you could argue both sides. In the moment, I feel like it should have been stopped. It was really bad. Dude was limp. He was getting beat up, dropped multiple times. Things were not going his way. But he managed to survive and come forward. He also might end up like Darren Elkins if you have too many fights like that. The problem is, you watch the slow motion of that, of the kick in the face and the stumble and the fall over. Dan Margala's like this. No reaction whatsoever. Not like, oh, let me get a look. Let me just make sure he's okay. Nothing. This is the same dude that was stopping fights, last week? Maybe it was the week before. At the 10-second clap, he confused the clap of 2 pieces of wood with a buzzer, with the bell, and was stopping fights 10 seconds early, then yelling at the fighters for doing nothing. So not only, if we go back in time, not only was he stopping the fights early, he was like, hey, stop. He didn't put his hands, he didn't separate them, he didn't yell when punches were thrown after what he thought was the end of the round. And now here he is in this fight, just oblivious to what's going on. So ultimately, Aiemann won the fight because after he almost died, he ended up on top because he just moved forward. He somehow survived. Jose Aldo used every last ounce of energy he had to try to finish Aiemann. And when he couldn't finish Aiemann, he quite literally had nothing left to give. So Aiemann moved forward. Aiemann was throwing. Jose Aldo just literally fell to his back and was like, I'm going to hang out here. I think I've won this fight already. I'm just going to hang out here. And in fact, he did not win the fight. He gave away that round. If he just survived on his feet, he probably would have won that round. But because the optics of him laying on the back, tough. So he gave the second round away because he was literally running around at the end. He gave the third round away because he was exhausted. Jacob said it. Maybe you'll see it in the vlog. Maybe you won't. I don't know what piece they'll edit out. But Jacob basically said, I'll never get mad at somebody for gassing out trying to finish. So yeah, he did death gas. Literally, Jose Aldo was the epitome of a death gas in that fight, but it was chasing a finish. Aiemann Zahabi called out Chito Vera. I mean, was that a good call out? I think anybody else beats the shit. Keep in mind, Jose Aldo's 42, and he looked good in this fight. It's not like he looked terrible, but if Jose Aldo had a touch more cardio, Aiemann Zahabi loses. And Jose missed weight by 8 pounds, and they had to, Jose showed up a complete asshole. He also said, I'm completely uninterested, and he retired for the second time. And you could see it in this fight. So Jose's done. Aiemann Zahabi, you don't give him Chito. Aiemann has no name notoriety. This fight happened to be exciting, but you can't give him Chito. You got to do a little more. Give him Pitbull. Just let him fight a bunch of old people. Give him Pitbull. Pitbull needs a win. Give him Pitbull. God, I'm nailing this whole matchup thing. Then we had the co-main event. This was a fun fight. I thought this decision could have gone to Manon Farrell. There's going to be 3 decisions you hate me for. I thought this decision could have gone to Manon Farrell, but I understand it going to Valentina. This is crazy close. Anybody using the word robbery here doesn't know what that word means. I thought this was a very competitive fight. It felt like 2-2 going into the 5th, and I thought Manon Farrell may have done enough to win the 5th. But I also, as you all point out, I tend to score cage control and that whole aspect of everything a little more than most. And you're like, oh, damage is the only thing that matters. Listen, there was damage in the first round. Manon Farrell's nose was leaking like crazy. It didn't really leak again till the 5th, and it was the same issue, just a little blood. But this was a great back and forth fight. The very first round, it looked like Valentina Shevchenko was going to maul and probably finish Manon Farrell. She was landing big, clean shots. Manon's striking defense wasn't there. But then the second round, Manon felt different. She was big. She was strong. She used her strength, held Valentina against the cage, was landing monster knees right to the gut and the chest. Really started to pour it on. And Manon looked good. Manon looked good. The rest of the rounds were pretty competitive, pretty back and forth. Manon had some success grappling, certainly had great success against the cage, had some good striking exchanges. It was all pretty competitive, pretty back and forth. So the way I'm looking at these rounds, the striking's pretty competitive, but then the added layer is Manon was able to hold Valentina against the cage. Manon was able to land those big knees against the cage. So to me, it's like, all right, that's the difference. The striking's about even. the cage control, the knee up the middle, that's the tiebreaker. That's the difference. Ultimately, it went Valentina's direction, and I'm fine with that because Manon didn't rip this out of there. She didn't take the belt away. She just sort of showed up, made some adjustments, looked pretty good doing it. The cardio was pretty solid. This was a good fight. This was a good fight. I'm totally fine with the decision. This was a good fight. Now, what's next for Manon? I mentioned Alexa Grasso. I think that probably is what the UFC is going to do. I do not think that's what the UFC should do. Give both of these women a win. Give Alexa a win. Get Manon Fiorot a win. Maybe use Jessica Andrade for Manon Fiorot. Let Jessica Andrade lose to one of these women. But Manon Fiorot could quite literally get 2 wins in a row, come back, and then beat Valentina. She was this close. Like, I know Alexa beat Valentina, but she did it by fluke. And she did it only one time. Manon Fiorot was this close and had a lot of success. Rematch could go a different way. Now, Valentina Shevchenko should fight Natalia Silva next. And Valentina, it was a Valentina fight. She bounces on her toes like this, bombs inside the pocket, fights like a man. And I'm not saying that like, she literally fights like a man. She will brawl. She will sit there and she will bomb away inside the pocket, but be clean about it. So Valentina Shevchenko, the greatest to ever do it in this weight class, it's got to be Natalia Silva next. And that fight will come down to, will Valentina be able to bully and get takedowns on Natalia? Or is Natalia going to dance around the outside? The success Manon had is because Manon is huge. Manon's huge. Natalia Silva is not huge and doesn't fight like that. So it will be Valentina looking to fight in the pocket, Natalia Silva looking to stay on the outside. That's a great matchup. They need to do that fight next. And then obviously the main event of the evening. If Jacob didn't have the perfect read on this fight, I don't know what a perfect read looks like. He also had a perfect read in the Valentina Manon fight. Not a perfect, the correct read, right? He picked Valentina to win. I would say that fight was far closer than he thought it was going to be. But this fight was exactly what Jacob said it would be. Jacob's whole theme, and excuse my French, his whole theme going into this was Belal Muhammad beat Leon Edwards because Leon is a pussy. Jack Della Maddalena is not a pussy. That was the breakdown from Jacob, quite literally. He said Belal's not just going to be able to walk forward, land a bunch of strikes, and get sloppy takedowns. JDM will defend the takedowns. He'll work his way back to his feet. He's going to strike back. And that's literally exactly what we had. Towards the end, Belal had a takedown or two, but not with any meaningful amount of control time, and certainly no damage. Jack can take a hit, though. There was a bunch of big shots coming from Belal, but Belal can take a hit as well. We saw Belal eat a couple of monster right hands, a couple of monster left hooks, to the point where I said, how the hell did Vicente Luque knock him out as bad as he did? Because Belal looked pretty durable in this fight. This is a great fight. What I hope happens here, we already know what's happening with Jack Della Maddalena. Islam Makhachev is moving up. He will be fighting for the 170 belt. That was basically decided on before this fight ever happened. The whole breakdown here was, if JDM wins, Islam's moving up. If Belal wins, Islam will fight Ilya. So we were robbed of the Islam-Ilya matchup, but all right, maybe we'll get to see Islam win himself a second belt. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. What I do hope happens here, though, is all the people who hated Belal for no reason, all the people who thought it was fun to make fun of him and pretend they don't know his name, all those people, I hope you see what a dog he is. He moved forward. He bombed away. He took a beating. He was a bloody, disgusting mess, and he did not stop. He didn't stop not one time. He didn't look like he wanted to stop. He wasn't considering stopping. He just continued to move forward, trying to win this fight. If you can't respect that, then why do you watch this sport? Belal Muhammad hopefully earned a ton of people's respect. Jack Della Maddalena, great win. I mean, great win. An absolute showcase win. Phenomenal win for him. Guys, that's the recap. If you lost a couple of bucks, sorry, should have been a premium member. Premium was up. Obviously, it depends on what bets you went with, but if you went with every single one, you were up money. If you only tailed Jacob, you were up huge money. If you only tailed the safety parlay, you were up money. If you only tailed Bet Sam's slam of the week, you were up money. But if you were down, or even if you were up and you want a couple of bucks, go to wewantpicks.com/bets. We have some affiliate links. If you use those affiliate links to sign up and make a deposit, we will send you $50 as a thank you. You need to use the links. I had somebody messaging me today. Hey, how come I didn't get my 50 yet? I said, let me look it up. The count didn't exist anywhere. I said, did you use the link? He said, I used the promo code. I said, we don't have a promo code. It's a link. You have to use the link, wewantpicks.com/bet. Sign up, make a deposit. We'll send you $50 as a thank you. And don't forget, become a premium member. UFC Vegas 106 info is up right now. We've got picks, we've got bets, we have the safety parlay up right now for UFC Vegas 106. We also have a whole suite of tools. One of those tools is a tape index. You like to do your own research, watch fights with your own eyes? Tape index will get that for you. We have a DraftKings optimizer that will build lineups for you. We have a fight simulator that simulates fights 100,000 times to get you everything you need to make a couple of bucks heading into a fight week. And everything we do is available inside of an app. You can download that app for free right now in the App Store. Guys, thank you for the watch. Go to wewantpicks.com. Do all the things. We appreciate the support. Hopefully you made as much money as the overall crew did. Overall, great night. I'll see you in the morning for my UFC Vegas 106 breakdown.